Good afternoon, America. This is Clark coming to you with the herd, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, Sin City, as we call it. A lot of sin goes on around here. I hope you're getting your share, if you want it. The sin I've been getting, I don't want, but anyways. A lot of things are going on. We got an interesting election coming up. Tomorrow is a big day in Indiana, where maybe the pundits can shut up for a while if Trump wins. I think he's leading in most of the polls by a couple digits, and it looks good. Bobby Knight's endorsement, Governor Pence's endorsement was more for Trump than it was for Cruz, I think, is the common acknowledgement of that particular deal. But anyways, that's was quite the endorsement that he gave to Cruz. I talked about Trump for 3/4 of his endorsement. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, and can't wait to see the results and see what these pundits do, because if Trump wins a significant amount of delegates there, that really puts him on a path to get that 1237, which will shut everybody up, hopefully, and we can start getting the Republican Party, whatever is left of it, united, so they can take over the White House and keep the Senate and keep the Congress. That's what we need to do. And with a united effort behind Donald Trump, I think that'll happen. We have plenty of time left before the general election, and it's going to be a lot of fun decimating Hillary Clinton, because Trump can take her out. He will have taken out, by the time he goes to work on her, 17 very qualified individuals that I think any one of them could have been president. Was certainly a lot more qualified than any Hillary Clinton, which has no qualifications, and Bernie Sanders, who was put up there to run just so he would make Hillary look good, because the Democratic Party knew that Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate to the max. She's a despicable candidate. She's being investigated by the FBI for felonies which have to do with national security, and how do you even put your name in the hat to run for anything under those circumstances is beyond me. It just shows the despicability of the party system that we have here in this country, where you have these corrupt organizations which are controlling the special interest groups by taking their money from them, raising the money so they can go to these little luncheons or whatever and pay the politicians off to buy their votes. So the politicians aren't representing the people of this country, they're representing the special interest groups. And this is what we got, and the results are very apparent, because we got $20 trillion in debt. We have airplanes being built by the manufacturers that buy special interests like crazy from the politicians, huge contributions, and they have huge defense budgets, allotments to their manufacturing companies that build planes that simply just won't fly. None of the generals want these planes because they won't work. But we build them because the special interests are giving money to our politicians, who are just taking the money and shutting up about the fact that we shouldn't be building these planes, because that'll cost them money. So it's a corrupt world we live in here in the United States. We're over 200 years old now, and it's been corrupted to the max, and it's just gone down the tubes, and that's all there is to it. And we're going to have to get this country restored and back on the path to where we can be great again, as Donald Trump says. We have to do away with so much crap that's gone on for 200 years. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is what we're up against. In 200 years, most countries fail because they collapse under their own greed, their own bureaucracy, their own weight. They can't sustain themselves because it's just unsustainable, because they don't make anything. what they do is they steal the money from the productive people of the country, the producers. They steal their money in the form of taxes, and then they turn around and they buy votes for their liberal, progressive policies, and that's what makes the country collapse, because you can't go on that way. You have a limited amount of survivability under those circumstances, and you end up failing. This is not rocket science. This is very easy to understand. This is what happens continuously. So anyways, if you'd like to join the show, give us a call today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Anybody is welcome to participate and give us their suggestions for solutions to the problems that we face. One of my biggest solutions that seems to be leading the way here is that we have to eliminate the two parties. The Democrats and the Republican parties need to go. We can no longer have any political parties in our life. They're corrupted, and they'll always be corrupt. What do they do for the voter? What do they do for we the people? Absolutely nothing. They're corrupt, and we need to eliminate them. They're not provided for in the Constitution of the United States, so by virtue of not being in there, anything was left to the states, and the states have developed their own political process where they've have state Republican and state Democratic parties, and that's the mess that we're in. And why they get to go to a federal level and have anything to do with electing a president is beyond the pale, because I let them do their own state stuff for their senators, for their congressmen, whatever, but when it gets to a federal election, leave the president alone. You can't have these political parties having anything to do with the election of a president for this country. You can't get into the trenches, down in the weeds, electing a president. We need a Donald Trump, somebody that's not subject to special interest groups, who can do the job for the American people. And we don't need any influence from a political party, such as the Republican Party trying to do anybody but Trump, is the policy they're putting forth. Now ask yourself, why is that? It's because Trump jeopardizes their power. They're going to lose their power if Donald Trump gets elected, because there goes the special interest groups, go out the door. U-Haul trucks will be very busy in Washington, D.C. With special interest people moving out of town because they're going to go broke if they stick around. And this is what we need to have done. We need to clean up that town. We need to get rid of these people that hijack the American voters' rights, and we have to get our country back. We can't keep going $20 trillion in debt. This last 7.5 years under the Obama administration has absolutely decimated this country. Look at the numbers. They're all pathetic. And keep in mind that most of the numbers, as pathetic as they are, they're lies, because they're trying to make them look good, and they can't. I mean, how do you make something that's just so bad look good? And they say like the unemployment rate's 5%. That's a joke. There's nobody that knows how to do math, new or old math, that can come even close to a 5% figure. The unemployment rate is a minimum of 20, I'd say more like 25%, and the actual rate's probably more like 35 or 40. Because if you do the math, 90 million people are unemployed. What is the workforce in this country? It can't be 300 million people. That's counting every woman, child, and dog, and some of those don't work. So I mean, we have an unsustainable unemployment rate. We're going to go the way of Greece and all these European countries, and we're going to fall off a cliff. There's just no doubt about it. We have to get this country restored, and it's going to take leadership from the top, such as a Donald Trump. It's going to take leadership in the Senate and the Congress, unlike John Boehner, and unlike Harry Reid, unlike Nancy Pelosi, unlike Mitch McConnell. We have to clean house in those two bodies of government and get some real leadership in there, and get some of this crap straightened out with all the maneuvering and all the Harry Reid nuclear options and things of that nature that are dreamed up just to obfuscate the real true law that we have in this country. It's absolutely terrible. So we have to get on the track to recovery. So anyways, out there, give us a call, 702-493-5222. Let us know what we can do here as a group of people. We're calling ourselves the Herd, H-E-A-R-D. We want to be heard because we are the American people. And if we can get movement to where we become something somewhat organized, to where we will be heard, then we're going to have some weight. And this is what we want. We want the voters to group together as we the people and demand that this country do a couple fundamental things to start with, but we'll go a long way to straightening out the country. One is eliminate the political parties. They're illegal. They need to be made such. You pass a petition or whatever, get everybody to sign it, get it before the Supreme Court, and demand that the political parties be declared illegal. And then in one swoop of the rendering of the decision from the Supreme Court, just like the Marriage Act, where they started making gays maritable, in 1 second of signing that, that's it. Political parties are gonzo. And that's what we need to do. And then we can start having some straight elections where Mr. Smith runs against Mr. Jones, and they can have their ideology, whatever it is that their policies are that they're promoting, that they believe in and what have you, but they're running on their own merit. And the key issue is that they're not influenced by money, okay? They can have whatever policies they want. If they make sense to the American people, then maybe they'll get elected. But being bought and paid for by special interests, which are not the policies that the people of the United States want, it's the policy of the special interest that want to buy whatever it is that gives them an advantage over their competitors, and then that's not good for the American people in a lot of cases. And this is what we need to get out of our influence of government. We need to get the money out, and that's a good way to start. And it's going to take a while to straighten everything out. We've been going the wrong way now for decades. And we've really gone the wrong road in the last 7.5 years. I can't believe we elected somebody who wasn't qualified to be a dog catcher. And we didn't elect him once. The geniuses on the other side elected him twice. And that's just mind-boggling to me after the Obamacare and the cash for clunkers and the bailout of Wall Street and the insurance companies and AIG and all these disasters. And then you pencil in the Middle East, the backing of Murabik in Egypt, the brotherhood or whatever, that worked out real well. The line in the sand worked out real well. Everything in the Mideast is just being destroyed. It's in complete chaos, and it's because we have a leader. Well, we don't have a leader, that's the problem. We have an Obama that can't make a decision. He's scared of his own shadow, and he wants a legacy. Well, his legacy is going to be that he replaced Jimmy Carter as the worst president ever, and that's his legacy, and he can just tie that around his neck. And then this moron thinks he's going to stick around in Washington, D.C. when he gets out of office and have some more influence somehow on what's going on there. We need to run him out of town. We need to run him out of the country, send him back to Kenya or wherever the hell he came from. He's already destroyed us enough in the 7 or 8 years by the time we get rid of him. I mean, that kind of devastation, we just can't sustain it anymore. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons, among a lot of reasons, why we could never allow a Hillary Clinton to get into any power. I mean, I can imagine a more despicable person after the Clinton administration with all the gates, this gate, that gate, file gate, FBI gate, you name it, gate after gate, Monica gate, and then you have the Vince Foster gate, and I mean, and a trail of dead bodies that follow these people around. You have state troopers that are unexplainably dead. You have a chain of women, Paula Jones and Anita Broderick and Catherine Willey and all these names. Monica Lewinsky, can't forget her, went to town with her knee pads, and she got good use out of that with Bill around. And thank God she kept that blue dress, or she'd probably be dead today, because I think they were out to get her. And this is what, like, our illustrious front runner on the Democrat ticket, Hillary Clinton, was the Bimbo Eruption Squad leader, and she was the one that was going after these women and devastating them, really, doing all kinds of things about them. And this is just a terrible, terrible, terrible people. The Clintons are the worst. And the Democratic side of this particular parties or whatever are so despicable that they would put up somebody like that for whatever reason they are. I don't know, but it's a specious reason. And then to make her look good, they had to dig up somebody to make her look good, and they come up with a Bernie Sanders, who's a devout communist. He went to his honeymoon, he went to Russia. I mean, the guy is absolutely out to lunch. Now he's getting a little bit of traction because people like him, but who likes him? Millennials for a lot of it, and these people are uneducated because they've been in our education process, being trained by liberal progressives probably most of their educated life, and they come out of college and whatever, and they don't know anything. They're pathetic. All they know is to have their hand out and wait for Santa Claus to come around and give, give, give. They're going to get free this and free that. That's how you get these people to vote for you. Just promise them everything under the sun. You can't deliver, but that doesn't bother a Democrat because they never deliver anyways. They can make all these promises, they've never delivered on anything. Why the African American voting bloc stays with the Democrats is beyond me. They've been dumbed down to a certain level, I guess, that they just can't recover. It's going to take several cycles to dig them out of the stupidity that's been jammed down between their ears. But, I mean, the Democrats have never done anything for them. Who got them out of slavery and everything, the Emancipation Proclamation, and all that was done by Republicans. And then every civil rights and so forth were propped up and ran through the Congress and the Senate by Republicans. But you know, of course, the Democrats are never going to tell you that because they just lie right to your face. Everything out of a Democrat's mouth is a joke. I heard one, Robert, somebody, I don't even know his name, I hate him, but he's on one of the pundits shows, and he's talking about Hillary Clinton is the most qualified person to ever run for president. I mean, these people will say anything. Are you kidding me? I cannot think of a worse person ever, ever, ever. And then on the other side, you have a Donald Trump, a successful businessman that has relationships all over the world, knows the leaders for the most part of every country on a first name basis, if you will get the respect of all these people. Just listen to the scuttlebutt coming from our enemies. They're trying to tear down Trump. They don't want Trump. Well, there you go. What does that tell you? Our enemies don't want us to have Trump. That means you better pull the lever for Trump, because that's the only way we're going to get our world back in order, is to have a real leader, and Trump is one of them. So anyways, let's have some people call in here and give us some direction of how we're going to get this man elected, because it's very, very hard. The only person that could ever be successful to get a guy that's so damaging to the political parties elected is somebody like a Trump, who's not getting any money from anybody but himself, and he's saying the truth. He's saying what needs to be heard. He's coming up with policies and so forth that need to be done, and he will have a team with him that is qualified, unlike what we've been going through for 7.5 years, where Obama, to make himself look good, he has to put the worst people he can find with him, because that way it makes him look good. If any of you had the missed opportunity to listen to that speech he gave the other night at the Washington News, whatever the hell that thing, Washington Dinner, or whatever that crap was, I mean, the guy isn't even funny, you know. All the Democrats are just raving about his great performance and all that. I mean, it was pathetic. But here again, maybe they prop up Obama to make him look good, by bringing out the totally despicable Larry Wilmore to follow up. I mean, Jesus, what a clown that guy is. Every now and then, if there's an ad on TV at 11:30 at night, I click around and sometimes I catch little excerpts of his show, and I listen to it while the ad's on the other channel, and then I flip right back to what I was watching, which could be things like an old Johnny Carson show. I mean, I don't have anything to listen to Larry Wilmore about, other than I listen to the despicability of what this out-and-out racist says. He is just the worst type of individual that this country can have. He's divisive to the max. His guests are all morons. He's got a couple chicks on there and a couple guys that are just space cadets. I mean, unbelievable, except one of the worst, said the other night on one of the ads, where I flipped over to it, was saying, actually, my number one thing is to get rid of the political parties. Larry Wilmore, of course, was back to the, well, why do we have to have only 2 parties? Why not 4? Why not 5? So typical Larry Wilmore, going in totally the wrong direction. You know, that's what I expect from these liberals. And then this other guy, I don't know his name, but he props up and says, well, why do we need any parties? I went, whoa, I almost fell off my chair. I said, Jesus Christ, the guy actually came up with something good. Or maybe he was just trying to be opposite to Larry Wilmore. And like, if you go opposite to Obama on a regular basis, you'll usually be right, because the guy's always wrong. So all you have to do is know which way Obama's going, go the other way, and you'll be right. Well, same thing with Larry Wilmore. That guy's a complete moron. So just go the other way on him, and you'll usually be right. So anyways, that's my point on that one. But we have to get this country out of the situation we're in now. We made a mistake. This country elected a president that never should have been elected. And I'm not talking about color, I'm talking about substance between his ears. This guy was a progressive communist, is what he was. And how we could elect a guy that actually hates America to that office is just mind-boggling to me. Listen to what his wife had to say. For the first time in her life, she's happy to be American, proud to be an American. Why? Well, what the Christ was so bad about your life? I think she was making $300,000 a year, something, but which was a given job, I guess. I don't know. She went to Harvard. I mean, what a poor, depressed, deprived individual she was. My God, you know. And I guess she could have gone to Kenya or something. Maybe you'd do better over there. Instead of sticking around Washington, why don't you just boogie on out of here? Go get your daughters educated in Kenya, you know, where the father was brought up. And nothing prettier than a Muslim sunrise, remember? Yeah, well, go over there and see some sunrises over there. But get the hell out of here and leave us alone. But anyways, that's my diatribe on the despicability of the parties. We have to get rid of the parties. They're a complete anti-American people. And we have to get rid of them. I hope that we got good news to report probably Wednesday. The results of what we find out about Indiana. I have hope that Trump's going to pull that out. And when he does, that will have been, I don't know how many in a row now, but the delegates and the results where he's getting, like all the delegates and all the districts, which is just phenomenal. I don't know if anyone's ever had a record like that before. But the man is so presidential. You compare him to anybody, any of the other qualified individuals that were running, and Trump's trumped all them. He came out on top. Compare him to any of, you know, Ben Carson even is a nice man. I think he's qualified in a lot of respects, but he's just a little on the nice side to handle some of these leaders like a Putin and stuff like that. I think would just kind of run circles around him. But the other good side, though, of Carson is you probably get good people that were qualified to handle that type of leader. But anyways, any one of them, any one of the 17, 18, however many there were a few there that might not be too qualified, but a Leslie Gramnesty, you could have him all you want. I could not stand that guy for 5 seconds. He's deplorable. And what a loser. Running for president, and he couldn't get more than 1% in his own home state of South Carolina. What a jerk off. Anyways, that's not all of them, I take that back. Not all of them were qualified to be president, that's for sure. But most of them were. Let's say a good 10 of them were rock solid. But anyways, Trump's gonna win. He's gonna be our next president. And let's hope so, because if he's not, something really, really bad has happened to this country. When you have a leader like that that's willing to go up there and be something, amazing. So we need to go to the ballot, pull it for Trump, and let's get this show on the road to where we can get back to being great again, like we were for years and years and years and decades. So that's the goal. So give us a call, 702-493-5222. Let us know what you think. Let us know how we're gonna make sure that Trump gets elected. Last week we interviewed a lot of people that were running for state office, especially the legislature, a couple of people running for the Senate, and a lot of them, the number one reason why they were running was because they were all pissed off, if you will, of what happened in the last cycle, where the Republicans electorate voted in a lot of Republicans, and the state was taken over by a majority of Republicans. And all these Republicans running for office made promises about taxes and so forth, and all these candidates were pissed off that we were lied to. These people got elected, there was a change, a sea change, and we got the majority, the conservatives did, and the first thing they did was pass the largest tax increase in history. And they passed a margins tax on businesses. 80% of the people didn't want that tax and voted it down before, and here's the balls to go there as just newly elected majority conservatives, and they voted a tax that 80% of the people didn't want. I mean, these people are morons. And this is what is driving this election cycle, because 2 cycles now, 10 and 12, the people have gone to the polls and they've pulled a lever for conservatives, like Ted Cruz, like these other people that went. Ted Cruz tried to do his job, but he was devastated by the establishment, which is not conservative. They want to ruin this country, and they backed every single thing that Obama had wanted passed. They just rubber stamped everything. The budget, they were supposed to defund the immigration policies, and the Obamacare was supposed to defund this stuff. What happened? Well, they just rubber stamped it and increased the deficit by another $2 trillion or something. These people just absolutely lied. They have no integrity left, and now here we are again, and I hope the electorate smartens up, can see that we have made a little bit of progress, but we need to go the rest of the distance, because a lot of the reason that we weren't able to do what we had hoped that we would be able to do is because we didn't control the White House. Well, that excuse is going to go away. So if we can get the White House, keep the control of the Senate and the Congress, then there will have a real test to see how the conservatives are going to lead this country. And under Donald Trump's leadership, I think the Congress and the Senate will have to snap too, because if they don't follow suit on what Donald Trump's policies are to improve this country and make it great again, let me tell you something. Trump's going to go to the media, he's going to go to the people, and he's going to put his plan out there, and those senators and those congressmen's phones will be wrung off the friggin' hook by their constituents telling them what they think about it. And we can, by mandate, we can run this country and try it for a while, try policies that make sense, get rid of the special interests, get term limits in there. I understand that Danny Tarkanian, a local boy here, is running for Congress, and he's running on a platform of term limits on the federal level. Well, thank God. I mean, that's what we've needed forever. So let's get a guy like Danny Tarkanian in there and see what happens. We've got to clean up the mess, folks. We have to clean up the mess. And we can go a long way by getting the right people. We've tried it. The people we got, some of them have let us down. We know who they are, like Robinson and people of that nature. They went in there and they lied to us. And we have to straighten this stuff out. So we will. We'll get there. Contribute to the herd. We'll take $1 membership dues, if you will. We're going to put those $1 in the bank. We're going to let them add up. And the more dollars we get, that's going to represent how many people we have as members. And we're not going to spend any money for anything. We don't need your dollar. We need your symbol. And that dollar will be a symbol that we have that amount of people behind us. And that's going to mean something at some point to the people that are running for office and to people in office, because they're going to know that we have a certain amount of people that we absolutely represent and that they want to be heard. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to be heard. So give us a call, support us. Let's get this movement going and be something. Together we can be everything, because we are the people. Remember us, we the people. That's what this country was founded for. And we need to get it back. And there's so many things that we need to do. We need to uphold the laws of this country. We need to make sure that the laws that are on the books are enforced. If there's a bad law on the books, something about ponies or whatever that goes back 200 years and is not applicable anymore, we have to have legislators and so forth in office that if they want to pass any new regulations, which they better not, well, we need to get them out of office, but should there be one that we need, you have to eliminate like 2 or 3 existing legislative laws to make room for any new ones. And that should be a policy to clean up the mud. And we have 800,000 regulations on the books. Who the hell knows what these regulations are? That's insane. Why do we have to burden ourselves with such a weight of crap? It's just overwhelming. And it's driving a lot of businesses out of this country. I've closed up 5 businesses. I refuse to go on anymore. I'm just not going to be subject to having to have offices full of people just handling bureaucratic paperwork that doesn't make me a dime, just costs money and raises the cost of the products and stuff that we're trying to sell. And there's no basis for it. We have to do things a smarter way. And in my case right now, that means doing nothing. So I do nothing. So I become not a productive person. I'm only one person. But how many people out there are like me that have just stopped their businesses because there's no sense going on anymore? When you work as hard as we work, when you're a business person and has responsibilities, it's hard work. And you're not getting paid for it because you're just spinning your wheels, giving the government money. And what do? They turn around and give $150 billion to Iraq, one of our enemies. They give foreign aid to countries that hate us. We're run by stupid people, like Donald Trump says. We're run by stupid, stupid people. And we need to stop that. And I don't think many people, well, progressives and liberals say Donald Trump's stupid, but they just show how stupid they are by saying that. But, he's definitely not an Obama, that's for damn sure. And I think that's the way to go. I know that's the way to go, because look at Obama. If we can't improve upon that schmuck, I mean, we're done, and we might as well just close the door. And I don't know. I'm just retired, I guess. But but anyway, we have to straighten out the court system. To talk about that for a minute. Here in Nevada is an absolute joke. There's some fundamental laws in this country that are Law 101. I mean, one of them is that one state cannot control property outside of their jurisdiction, which is outside of their territory. And that was set up that way by the United States, the Constitution. when our forefathers founded this country, there had to be a deal made with, I think there were 13 colonies at the time, and they were going to become states. And there was a trade-off there to where they decided that they needed a one-entity type overall government to be called the United States, which would be in charge of various things like security, protecting against foreign enemies, maybe a monetary system, maybe what turned out to be a highway system, maybe some oversight on drugs, oversight on the FAA, for example. There's some things that the government can only do at a certain level, and no state individually would be as successful as states together, working together on some issues. So that was the theory behind the US government. And the states, in turn, of allowing this United States government to have a certain amount of power over them, they were going to limit their power to only the areas of responsibility that these states were collectively giving to the United States government. So the United States government was going to have power, but their powers were going to be limited, and then the forefathers penciled into the deal certain checks and balances by having 3 branches of government. These 3 branches would check the other branches and be an equal branch to where they would have some say-so if a branch exceeded its jurisdiction. So you have the judiciary, you have the legislature that passes the laws, the judiciary enforces the laws by confirming the laws, and then the governor's office or the president's office, executive branch, will be the chief executive. And all 3 branches mean something, and all 3 branches, especially with another branch in concert, could straighten out a branch that got out of whack. And we've proceeded after 200 years of being around to a situation where our judiciary has been completely hijacked by lawyers / judges, which are all come from the same cloth. And they've been now controlled by money, and lawyers, especially in bad times like a recession now, they have to pay their light bills, their secretaries, or this or that, and they have overhead, and the only way they can get money is to rip off their clients. And that's what they do, because they'll charge you for research. What's research? When you're, I mean, I understand, but isn't that why they're in a position where they charge these hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour? Because they've already been trained. What, when you get a client, they're sending you back to school again? I mean, why are you getting all this money per hour if you're not already trained? But anyways, it's a system that's purposely set up to where there's no accountability. When you just sign a contract with a lawyer to where he's going to charge you so much an hour, he charges you by his watch dinging. I mean, how do you know what he's charging you for, or how, or this or that? And what it is they put everything under the umbrella of research. Oh, research, they had to do research. Well, okay, there's a certain amount of research, but you know, you need to, if you have to be in a position to get a lawyer, you have to do it on a flat fee basis. This is what we need done, how much can you charge to get to that point? And that's the deal you make with them. And if they don't want the case, well, I think I see someone standing behind you, so I'll talk to them. I mean, you have to be aggressive, and you have to get the system changed. And we have to, the other part of the legal system is that it's so distorted and so convoluted, and it's intentionally done that way so that they can increase their billing hours. So you get 2 lawyers. You've heard about the town that was too small for 1 lawyer, but it was just the right size for 2. It's because the lawyers play off one another to get their billing hours up. So you file this motion and I'll file a reply, and then you file a motion to my reply, and then I'll file a motion to your brief, and it goes on, and they got it all figured out when they go out to lunch trying to divide up the client's money. How much does your client have? How much does your? And they figure this out, how much they can make off these 2 suckers who have hired them to do something. So it's a bad, 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 bad system that's fundamentally broken. and we need to fix it now. I had a case that was a very, very simple case, but my mistake, I guess, if you want to call it that, was I trusted laws, and I thought there were laws. And I thought that when you start dealing with trusts, that you're in an area of the law that is very cut and dry. A trust is a relationship that exists between a designated trustee, someone that's going to protect the money, and beneficiaries, your heirs, if you will, that you want to give your money to upon your demise. So a trust is a very simple, fundamentally sound situation where you title everything into the trustee of the trust, and their obligation is to make sure that your terms that you put in the trust are followed. So he has the authority to distribute shares in the trust as you set up. Whatever your terms are, that's what he must follow. He doesn't have any discretion to do what he wants. He has to do what the settlor wants, the person that created the trust. So that's cut and dry. And the people that are in the trust as beneficiaries, it's considered that they don't have anything as far as trust assets until the trust assets are titled to them. In other words, they come from the trustee and they're distributed to them according to the terms of the trust. Prior to that happening, a beneficiary doesn't own anything. He has anticipation that someday he may own something, but right then and there he doesn't own anything. And as a result, he can't use the collateral that may afford him at some point in his life. It hasn't afforded it to him yet, so you can't go out and borrow money. You can't assign your interest in the trust. You can't do anything with it because you don't have anything yet. It's a very simple, fundamental, basic law. And I thought that's what I had available to my family, that I was protected, that laws protected me. Well, my mother was sick. She had Alzheimer's. The last few years of her life, she wasn't hitting on all cylinders. So I never dreamed that my sister would go to her and start screwing around with her estate plan to benefit herself, and that's exactly what she did. So somehow she got a signature on a piece of paper that meant something to the legal system. I don't know what or why. There's some changes that need to be done there too, but at any rate, that created a gigantic problem to where my sister was just out and out stealing money because she had this document that said she was in charge. And that's not the way it was supposed to be. We were supposed to equally be in charge. At any rate, this all gets turned around into a big mess. She gets a despicable lawyer who's a ambulance chasing bozo, and my sister didn't have any money to hire him, but the lawyer took the case because my sister appeared to be trustee of $1 million and something estate. So that was his interest because that's the type of ambulances you like to chase. So he took the case on the com, called a contingency, and when he lost the case, he lost any chance for money because my sister didn't have any money to pay him personally, and she was no longer trustee, so he was screwed. Well, when you're a lawyer in Nevada, the country of Nevada, you just go to your trusty little buddy there, the judge, who used to be a lawyer, and work out something where you can get paid even though you lost the case. Now, that's not the way the law is. You can't do that, especially with a trust, because again, trusts are set up to where nobody owns anything. So how is a judge, for example, going to award something from somebody that doesn't have anything yet? You can't go buy a car on the premise that someday you're going to inherit something, or buy a house or anything else. You can't use any of that money until it's titled to you. In the meantime, you don't have nothing but a promise, a maybe, an expectancy they call it. And that's the way trusts are. Well, every place in the country that kind of works, except there's a lot of scuttlebutt out there now that lawyers are ripping off the elderly left and right through probate and things of that nature, where they get taken advantage of, these people that have money. They just get it ripped away from despicable, hungry, desperate lawyers that have to pay their light bill. The only way they're going to get money is to steal it, and that's what they do. Well, the reason I bring this up is because Nevada has a judiciary system that's absolutely the worst, I think, that exists in the country. Now, there may be some that are as bad, but there cannot be any worse. It just can't be. Now, for example, we have a new appellate court that's been in existence now since January of 15 is when they started doing things. They got my case that was passed down from the Supreme Court because I had everything under appeal, because everything Judge Earl did was unconstitutional. So I had to appeal it. That's another one of these things that you have to go through. When a judge makes a major mistake, it costs you time and effort and money to straighten it out. And this is something that we have to find a way that these things don't happen. But anyway, once they do happen, you got to get it straightened out, so you depend upon the courts to get it straightened out. But the problem with that theory is you're depending upon the very court that screwed you up to start with to straighten it out. How's that going to happen? Not going to work out too well in my case, because Judge Earl went way overboard on my case, because he came up with the agenda that he just had to pay all the lawyers as much as possible, and he awarded them like over $600,000 right up front in legal fees over a $50,000 issue. How do you award $600,000 obscene fees? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's silly. And to do that, Judge Earl would have to ignore the Constitution of the United States, and he would have to ignore binding precedences set by the United States Supreme Court, whereby one state cannot control real property, houses, real property, things situated in other states, assets, like trust assets, for example. Nevada, for example, cannot control assets in California, cannot control assets in Utah, New Hampshire, Florida, any other state in the country. Nevada can only control the property within their own borders. Now, an interesting little twist is, if it's trust property held in the state of Nevada, the state is also limited in what they can do by virtue of the fact that the property is owned technically by a trust. And there again, nobody owns anything, so how does a court get involved and start divvying up assets where nobody owns the assets yet? You know, and then you have to go by what the wishes of the settler were, because the dead person is the one that established who gets what, when, where, and how, and no judge can interfere with that. That's the last wishes of a person that's now passed away, and his last wishes have to be respected. So any judge cannot control a trust, and any judge cannot control property outside the borders of its state. Well, Judge Earl had to do both. He ignored trust law, and he was told all along that he couldn't do what he was contemplating on doing. He was told specifically by both sides in this case, the defendant and the plaintiff, that you can't do what you're proposing to do. Well, he just had to get these lawyers paid, so he dictated that a home be sold outside of the border of Nevada. Well, you can't do that, and I've been screaming now for years over this case that you can't do that, you can't do that. I went to a newspaper, the Las Vegas Tribune, last July, and I think they published the first story August 5th, I believe, of 2015, regarding this particular case, and they kept writing about it as the story developed, because the writers and the editors and so forth became very intrigued with the facts of this case, because it really goes to the very issues that people have been talking about for a long time, and that's corruption within our courts. And this is the poster child for it. Now, Judge Earl exceeded his jurisdiction, demanded the property be sold in New Hampshire, which he couldn't do that. So I sold the property as a trustee, and to protect it, I got a cashier's check. And that should have protected the property, because nobody can control a cashier's check either. You can't control a trust, can't control a cashier's check. Once it's issued, it has cash equivalency. So the only way the judge could ever get it, if it had been cash, was to throw me in jail, and I would have to want to get out of jail personally, so I'd allow him to get the cash to let me out of jail, and then he would have had to illegally disperse that money, not according to the law too. So what he was planning on doing, he couldn't do come hell or high water. None of it could be done. But anyways, he did it. So the point is, I appealed everything because what he did was illegal, contrary to the Constitution, and violating a binding precedence from the U.S. Supreme Court. So I appealed. Now, you would think, because the issue is subject matter jurisdiction, did Judge Earl have jurisdiction to dictate that a home outside of his jurisdiction be sold? The answer to that is a definitive no, absolutely not. There's no way that a judge in Nevada can control property in any other state. Well, our illustrious new 3-person appellate court apparently is more interested in protecting someone like Judge Earl, who made tremendously fatal errors from having to answer to any of that. So Judge Earl and the appellate court decided to protect him. And that's what they did. They came down with a very suspiciously worded document that makes no sense. It's actually silly. They kind of confirm the fact that the court here in Nevada had personal jurisdiction, which is irrelevant. It was never even an issue raised on appeal. I don't care about personal jurisdiction. I cared about subject matter jurisdiction, which is jurisdiction over a thing, not a person. So they cannot control property. That's simple. Well, the appellate court comes down with this funny ruling. Anyways, I haven't done anything about that yet because I have another issue going on with Judge Gephardt, and I want him to rule on something first. And that's the path we're going down. But now last week, a ruling comes out of the Supreme Court of Nevada. And lo and behold, guess what? The Supreme Court of Nevada ruled on a case exactly the same facts as mine, where a District Court 8, same court, had made a ruling dictating that mining claims existing in California be liquidated to pay a case here in Nevada. Well, just like my case, you can't liquidate real property to settle a case in Nevada. I'm sorry, if the property is coming from California or coming from Nevada or any of the other 49 states, it just can't be done, Judge. It's just as simple as that. So the Supreme Court ruled correctly and overturned and made void that ruling. And that just came down April 22nd. And that's established law now in the state of Nevada. They referred to previous cases that they decided here in Nevada. And so now we have an issue that came down just 12 days ago, exactly according to the law. And I'm going to have to take the appeal that I made to the appellate court that ruled exactly wrong, opposite of what the Supreme Court just ruled, and ask the Supreme Court to clarify on the subject matter jurisdiction. Well, I don't see how they have any choice but to rule by law, which I've been screaming for years and years. You have to rule by law, and they'll have to, and eventually this thing will be over with. But the problem that the court here in Nevada is going to face is that the Judge Earl had to distribute money as fast as possible, and his goal was to get rid of the money, thinking that I was going to go away when the money was gone. Well, he underestimated me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to make sure that the law of the land is upheld. That's what we've got going on here, and I'm going to do my part as a citizen of this country and one of we the people, that I'm going to make goddamn sure that's what's done. So, at any rate, that's where we are, folks. We'll bring you up to date as this thing keeps going on. There'll be a story published this Wednesday in the Las Vegas Tribune regarding this case and the case that just came down. And we'll see where it goes. But I know where it's going. I've always known where it's going. It's just a matter of time and a matter of it getting there. Well, it's getting there. So we'll see. Anyways, folks, thanks for listening. And call in anytime, 702-493-5222. The other thing that you can do is you can go on YouTube and you can go online, just do a search engine like Google, for example, type in radiotribune.com and our website will come up. There'll be a picture of a microphone there, or just click on Radio Tribune and the show will come up to where you can listen to the show by hitting the little diamond arrow there, and you can listen to what's being broadcast currently, or you can go to the archive section, you can listen to an old show like this one. You can go to The Herd, you can go to Face the Tribune or any of the shows, Open Mic, what have you, and listen to any of the previous broadcasts on the day that they were made, and you can listen to them anytime at your convenience, day or night. So anyways, folks, that's what's going on here at Radio Tribune. That's what's going on at Las Vegas Tribune, and we're here to serve you. So I hope you tune in and listen to us. I hope you read the newspaper, and I hope you pay attention, because we're trying to make America great again, right along with Donald Trump. So thanks for listening.